Hi, it's Sarah, and this is journal number 15, Podcast Change the World. And I'll be using, I couldn't find very many terms from our course textbook to refer to the podcast, but I'll try the best I can. So I couldn't find any directly related material from that podcast and the biopsychology chapter, but I got to thinking about it, and since the podcast is about intelligence testing, we could talk about the hippocampus and how it's essential for learning and memory. And something, interesting that Dr. Fuji mentioned in the podcast was for us, people to take into account that something that we just do every day normally, maybe like driving, the part of our brain that's activated is slightly activated compared to a person who is just now learning to drive, or somebody who's never even been on the highway, on the road. So that's where I could see the similarities, or not similarities, but where I could find a term for learning. So, one of the most interesting things that Dr. Fuji was talking about was how neuropsychologists should be more aware of culturally sensitive diagnosis, such as he mentioned in India, they still have arranged marriages, and it's important that they don't have any chronic illnesses that will keep them from getting married. So in India, perhaps the doctor will talk to the family about a brain injury or epilepsy. But they would also have to talk about the cultural significance of it, and why she may not be able to get married, and maybe some possible things that she would be able to do. Something mentioned in the podcast, also found in the textbook, testing. The intelligence testing chapter in our book didn't really mention culturally sensitive I'm sorry, I'm just blanking out today. Culturally sensitive subjects that I could see. So, one of the things they talked about was norming. It's involved the population data and comparing groups like age groups and the normal testing scores for the average, let's say, adolescent. But these are national scores, and they don't really take into account the cultural differences of the way people think, and it's bias towards those who may not have the same type of education as others. So, something that I learned from the podcast that I could use today or in my career, openness for cultural differences. I liked one of the other things he talked about was the Native American community and how they feel like their perspective is fast is not smart. They like to take their time and think things through. And I really found that interesting as well because it seems to be true. And another thing that he mentioned was a test or a study with Mexican girls who were asked, imagine this happened to you, what would you do? And they couldn't answer these questions very easily because their culture is present minded. They're not thinking if I could be this or if I could be that, future oriented like most Westerners. They're present minded. And another thing that could help my career and even things today is have a ethno-relative perspective instead of an ethnocentric perspective and being critical of another culture. Instead, be understandable and maybe ask them why they do certain things and be open. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.